Hey guys, how are you? I'm Jay, and today we're going to look at the very latest Massdrop Ferrum Forge collaboration. I ordered this thing about 5 to 6 months ago, finally received it. Let's find out if it was worth the wait. This is the Massdrop produced, we manufactured Ferrum Forge Dao, which by the way means knife in Chinese. You should be looking at some specs. These are measurements I had personally taken myself, but don't worry, they'll also be listed down in the description below for those of you that would like to follow along as you watch the review. So let's get into what I like about this, what I don't, and some of the potential deal breakers. But first, let's do those size comparisons. Let's begin with Spyderco and the PM2. And then the Para 3. How about some Benchmades with the Bug Out? And then the 940. And here is the Gemini from Kaiser. Then we'll finish up with a zero tolerance, the ZT0450. Starting out with the blade, you're looking at 3.4 inch sheep's foot in S35 VN steel, which is fantastic stuff. It is flat ground with a satin finish. Blade thickness is sitting right at a very robust 4 millimeters, and the width of the blade, so from the spine to the sharpened edge, 0.93 inches. Just like with most Ferrum Forge designs, this one features a very large and usable forward finger choil. Deployment is going to be accomplished in one of two ways. First, with this has to be the absolute smallest flipper tab in my collection. I mean, look at that little guy. It's cute. So yes, you can use the flipper tab, or most of you should be able to use the thumb hole, but I say most of you because I'm unable to. And I think, well, most of my trouble is because, well, I'm left-handed, but I'm also pushing down on that lock bar at the same time that I'm trying to deploy the blade. There's just no room in between the thumb hole and lock bar. But for righties, it should be a little bit easier because they give you a little bit more room. Now, one of the benefits to a tiny flipper tab like this one is when you're cutting on a flat surface, you can see that most of that sharpened edge is going to make contact. So that's great for like kitchen duties. This gorgeous sheep's foot is riding on a ball bearing pivot and also features a very strong detent. Let me flip it upside down. And yeah, there is no way that you're going to be able to shake that blade loose. So you know what that means? Yes. Oh yes, the action is so good. Very smooth. I mean, this thing fires open reliably every time I push down on the flipper tab. Now you're really going to want to stick around until the end of the video because I do have a really quick, easy modification you can perform that will drastically improve the deployment of the blade. The closing action is, well, let's say it's okay. I mean, I can get it to drop shut, but you can see, yeah, it requires quite a bit of shake and bake. And you can do that thumbnail closure that a lot of us like to do, but I gotta warn you, be very careful. Because of how small this flipper tab is, it's easy to miss your thumbnail, and you don't want this coming down on your thumb, but you can close the blade that way as well. Now, once deployed, you can see that frame is locking up at about, let's say about 25%, and they did also include a lock bar insert and an over travel stop, so always good to see that. That lock bar it's fairly easy to get at, but you can see it really does not stick up that much higher than on the show side. I think most of the reason for its ease of access is going to be because of the wide channel that you have here. It's easy to get your thumb in there. And unfortunately, the Dao cannot tolerate even a little bit of lock bar pressure. I mean, you can see I have it resting on that lock right now, and nope, it can absolutely not get it to fire. As soon as I move it, opens with ease. Checking the center, you can see it's not perfect, but it is very, very close. Now, I did have to make a few adjustments with the pivot. So once it arrived, it was dead center, but of course I had to mess with it. There's going to be two areas of jimping on the Dao. One on the spine of the blade, and then the other is going to be on that flipper tab. And I got to tell you, the jimping is very, very aggressive. But I will say that feels great when you choke up using the choil. Now, if we move on down to the handle, and you can see these titanium scales are 4.3 inches in length and exactly at a 1/2 inch thick. Now, if you can see with my medium-sized hands, I can fit all of my fingers here on the handle. And for those of you that have the larger hands, once you choke up, look at that. You have plenty of room to spare. There's no sharp edges anywhere on this handle, so that means that the grip is very comfortable, but unfortunately there really isn't any traction. Yeah, that's pretty smooth, pretty slick. Now maybe it's just me, but looking at this blade, this does not look like it should be able to fit within this handle. I mean, it just looks like it's way larger, but it does. And did you notice something that is missing from this handle? Yeah, there is no lanyard hole. I mean, I know for people that like them, that kind of stinks, but it's very rare that that the newer knives today come without a lanyard hole. The pocket clip, which is also titanium, really is not deep carry whatsoever. I mean, you're gonna have about that much sticking out from your pocket, which I don't know about you, but that really just does not work for me. But guess what? You're in luck. I also have a modification for the pocket clip, but you got to stick around until the end of the video to see it. Now, carrying this, it is going to be just tip up only, but it is for righties. Bam! Look at that. Yep, they gave us some lefty love. It's swappable to the other side. Thank you very much. Now, the closed width, so in your pocket, this is going to take up about 1.11 inches across. Very, very impressive. So how well does a 4mm blade stock thickness actually cut? Well, how about we find out? Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah, okay. I would say she cuts pretty good. Now, before we go ahead and toss this up on the scale, I just want to show you that, yeah, that does have it's a titanium backspacer, which does, the color also matches the pocket clip, but it's going to make the construction mostly closed. And if you look on the inside, yeah, there's no like internal milling or skeletonization going on to reduce the weight. So let's see how that's going to affect our knife. Wow, that's fantastic. 3.5 ounces, which is going to be roughly the equivalent 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like 4 AA batteries, or I believe that's almost the exact same weight, and it is, as the Spyderco Para 3. And don't forget, guys, to go ahead, click on that subscribe button if you're looking for knife reviews that get right to the point. And if you enjoy what I'm doing here on the channel, you like this video, you got any value from it, how about thumbs up? I like those a lot. Now, before we get to my potential deal breakers, I do, of course, have a question for you. So, those of you that have purchased a Massdrop knife, which one did you get? And those of you that have not yet purchased a knife from Massdrop, is there anyone in particular that you have your eye on? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Now, potential deal breaker number 1 is about the thumb hole. And for me anyways, it is very difficult to use, like I had stated earlier, because of how strong the detent is, but also how close that thumb hole is to the lock bar. You don't have the same problem for righties. And I gotta admit, when I first received this knife, because of that, I was really disappointed. Next potential deal breaker is going to be this, the very aggressive jimping on the flipper tab. Now, I do realize, because of how small that the flipper is, you really do, you need that jimping to be able to, grab on and deploy the blade. But if you're not paying attention, and let's say you have your finger on the lock bar and you try to deploy it, doesn't go, and your finger manages to slip off, man, does that hurt. Third potential deal breaker is regarding the lack of room on the scales where you can place your fingers during deployment. Now, because this handle is, the design, it's very narrow, but that leaves you with very little room to rest your fingers, and while at the same time making sure that it's not on the lock bar. Number 4, the forward finger choil. While I absolutely love knives with a forward choil like this one is pretty darn big. I mean, look at that. It could have been just a little bit smaller, because when you have such a large choil like this, all that does is take away sharpened edge that is usable. Last potential deal breaker is about the availability. Yeah, since you can only get this on Massdrop, and that's only when the Massdrop has been released, or as they say on Massdrop, dropped. Because as of right now, you can't just go to the website and buy this. Now, when it is in stock, you can purchase this for $130, which, in all honesty, I think is a fantastic price for what you're getting. I mean, this is a Ferrum Forge design. S35VN steel, titanium scales, titanium pocket clip, and backspacer. Now, those of you still here, well, first, thank you, and I'm guessing you want to see some mods. So the first one is for the pocket clip. Now, if you remember, it arrives stock with this milled, very narrow titanium pocket clip. What I did was I ordered this one off of MXG Gear. I will include the link down below, so if you'd like to buy one for yourself. I did not have to modify the clip at all. The screw hole configuration fits the Dao perfectly, and it also now provides a wider platform to rest your fingers on during deployment, again, just to help you keep it away from the lock bar. And the second modification, all I did was just added one of these quick thumb studs. You can get these on Amazon for about, about $7. I'll include a link to these as well. But right out of the package now, it's not gonna fit a 4mm thick blade. So I took my Dremel and I just widened up the gap so it could accommodate this thick of a blade. Now, no, I'm not crazy about having the thumb stud on here, but I'm able to utilize the second form of deployment now. And maybe once the detent like breaks in a little bit, I'll be able to remove it. But for now, it's not the prettiest, but I like it. It adds function for me that was not there. So now with these changes, this is a knife that I have carried every day since I received it. So if you have the opportunity, or if Massdrop starts to offer these again for $130, you have to. It's a fantastic knife that I highly recommend.